Jake Morrison sat in his chair and tried not to show his anger. The tall human ambassador had been listening to the same speech for the past hour. The blue-skinned Zephyrian delegate was talking about humans like they were children who needed to be watched over. Jake had heard this kind of talk many times before, but today it felt worse. The Galactic Council chamber was huge. Hundreds of alien species sat in rows that went up to the ceiling. The room smelled like different chemicals from all the different aliens. Some breathed different gases. Others needed special suits to survive in the same air as everyone else. The humans were the newest members of the council, and most of the older species treated them like they did not belong. The human species shows clear signs of primitive behavior, the Zephyrian said through his translator device. His voice sounded like water running over rocks. They fight among themselves. They damage their own planet. They are too emotional to make good decisions. We cannot trust them with the same freedoms we give to mature civilizations. Jake kept his face calm, but his hands were tight fists under the table. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 3 years. 3 long years of listening to aliens talk about humans like they were stupid animals. 3 years of being told that Earth was too dangerous, too violent, too young to be treated as equals. Lisa Brooks watched from the visitor area above the main floor. The captain of the Earth Defense Force had dark hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She wore her dress uniform with pride, but the aliens barely looked at her. To them, she was just another primitive human playing soldier. They had no idea that she commanded one of the most advanced military forces in the galaxy. Next to Lisa sat Carl Watson, an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. Admiral Watson looked like someone's grandfather, but he was actually one of the smartest military minds Earth had ever produced. He wrote notes in a small book, recording every insult and every threat the aliens made against humanity. The book was already thick with 3 years of entries. The Zephyrian delegate continued his speech. We propose that human expansion be limited to their current 12 worlds. They should not be allowed to spread further without proper supervision. We also suggest that a council of mature species should oversee all human military activities. Other aliens nodded their agreement. The crystalline vortaxi made sounds like breaking glass that meant they were happy. The tentacled Kalari waved, their arms in patterns that showed support. The insect-like creatures from the Arcturus system clicked their mandibles in approval. Jake had heard enough. He stood up slowly, his chair making a small sound against the floor. The chamber became quiet as hundreds of alien eyes turned to look at him. He was not tall for a human, but he seemed to fill the space around him with quiet strength. The Earth delegation thanks the Council for their concern, Jake said. His voice was calm and steady, but there was something underneath it that made the translator machines work harder to capture the full meaning. We would like to request a recess to discuss this proposal with our government. The Zephyrian delegate waved a hand like Jake was not important. Of course. Take all the time you need. We understand that important decisions are difficult for your species to make quickly. Jake did not react to the insult. Instead, he bowed slightly to the council and walked toward the exit. Lisa and Carl followed him, their footsteps echoing in the large chamber. The aliens were already talking among themselves, making plans for how they would control humanity. As they walked through the corridors of the council building, Jake finally let his anger show. His jaw was tight and his eyes were hard. Lisa and Carl had worked with him long enough to know what that look meant. Jake Morrison was not a man who got angry easily, but when he did, things happened. They think they can put us in a cage, Jake said quietly. They think we're too stupid to notice what they're really doing. They've been planning this for months, Carl said, looking at his notes. The Zephyrians have been talking to the other species, building support. They want to turn us into their pets. Lisa shook her head. They have no idea what they're dealing with. They think the 40 ships they've seen are our entire fleet. They think our colonies are just farmers and miners. Jake stopped walking and turned to face his companions. It's time to show them who we really are. They want to see what happens when humans lose their patience. I think it's time to give them a demonstration. He pulled out a small communication device and entered a code that only 3 people on Earth knew. The device beeped twice and showed a green light. Somewhere on Earth, in a buried command center deep under the mountains, Admiral Katie Sullivan would be receiving a message that would change everything. The message was simple. Operation Reminder is authorized. Show them who we really are. Jake put the device away and looked back at the council chamber. Through the large windows, he could see the aliens still talking and planning. They looked so proud of themselves, so sure that they had solved the problem of humanity. You know what the funny thing is? Jake said to Lisa and Carl. We actually wanted to be their friends. We came here hoping to learn from them, to work with them, to be part of something bigger than just Earth. Carl nodded. Humans have always been good at making friends. We try to get along with everyone. But we're also good at other things, Lisa said. Things they never bothered to learn about us. Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. They think we're children who need to be protected. They think we're primitives who can't build proper spaceships or fight real wars. They think we're emotional and weak. He paused and looked at the alien delegates through the window. They're about to learn that they were wrong about all of that. The three humans walked to their ship, a small diplomatic vessel that looked plain and simple, compared to the fancy alien ships around it. But Jake, Lisa, and Carl knew that looks could be deceiving. They had learned that lesson well during their time with the Galactic Council. As their ship lifted off from the Council world, Jake sent another message to Earth. This one was longer and went to more people. Military commanders, intelligence, officers, scientists, and even some people who looked like ordinary colonists and traders. The message told them that the time for hiding was over. For 3 years, humanity had played the role of the weak newcomer. They had let the aliens think they were primitive and harmless. They had smiled and nodded while being insulted and threatened. They had been patient while the galaxy's older species decided what to do with them. But patience was not the same thing as weakness. And now the aliens were about to learn the difference. Jake looked out at the stars as their ship headed home. Somewhere out there, human ships that the aliens had never seen were beginning to move. People who had been pretending to be farmers and merchants were opening hidden caches of weapons and equipment. Scientists who had been sharing their primitive technology were preparing to show what human engineering could really do. The Galactic Council thought they had solved the human problem. They thought they had put Earth in its place. They thought they had shown the newcomers who was really in charge. They were wrong about that too. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans finally lost their patience, the results were something that no species would ever forget. Deep under the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Admiral Katie Sullivan sat in a room that did not officially exist. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps, ship positions, and communication channels that stretched across half the galaxy. She was a woman in her 50s with short red hair and eyes that had seen too many secrets. The message from Jake Morrison appeared on her personal screen at exactly 14:32 Earth Standard Time. Katie read it twice, then leaned back in her chair. She had been waiting for this message for 3 years. Part of her hoped it would never come, but another part of her was relieved that the waiting was finally over. Computer, activate Protocol 7, she said to the room. Protocol 7 requires confirmation from 2 additional senior officers. The computer replied in a calm voice. Katie pressed a button on her desk. 2 doors opened and 2 people walked into the room. The first was Dr. Benjamin Hayes, a thin man with messy brown hair who looked like he spent too much time in laboratories. The second was General Patricia Miller, a tough woman with scars on her hands from years of military service. Jake sent the message, Katie said simply. Ben nodded and sat down at his workstation. I've been keeping the special projects ready for 3 years. Everything is functional and waiting for orders. Patricia cracked her knuckles and moved to her own station. Our people are in position. They've been playing their roles perfectly. The aliens still think we have 40 ships and a few thousand soldiers. Katie smiled. Show me what we really have. The main screen changed to show a map of human space. What the aliens saw were 12 small colonies connected by a few trade routes. What the screen now showed was something very different. Hidden. Bases appeared in asteroid fields. Camouflaged shipyards showed up near gas giant planets. Weapons platforms that looked like communication satellites began blinking on the display. "How many ships?" Katie asked. 2,437 combat vessels, Patricia answered. Plus support ships, transport vessels, and reconnaissance craft. The aliens have seen less than 2% of our actual fleet, Ben pulled up another display. Our technology development has been going well too. The items we've been selling to the aliens as primitive human tools are actually quite advanced. Most alien ships now have our components built into their systems. Katie studied the information. For 3 years, humanity had been playing a careful game. They let the aliens think they were weak while building a military force that could challenge the entire galaxy. They sold technology that seemed simple but contained hidden features. They placed people throughout alien space who looked like ordinary humans, but were actually highly trained operatives. "What about our agents?" Katie asked. Patricia brought up a list of names and locations. "We have people on every major alien world. Traders, scientists, farmers, mechanics, teachers. The aliens think they're just regular humans trying to make a living. They have no idea that most of them are military intelligence officers." Katie nodded. "And they're all ready?" "They've been ready for years," Patricia replied. "Every one of them knows their mission. When they get the activation signal, they'll reveal what they really are." Ben was working at his station, sending coded messages through communication networks that the aliens did not even know existed. "I'm activating the quantum communication grid now. Our people will have their orders within the hour." On the farming world of New Montana, Pete Anderson was fixing a fence when his wrist communicator beeped with a special pattern. The tall man, with sun-weathered skin, looked around to make sure no one was watching, then smiled for the first time in months. He walked to his red barn and pressed his hand against what looked like a normal wooden board. The board scanned his handprint and a section of the floor slid away. Pete climbed down into a room filled with military equipment that could outfit a small army. Weapons, armor, communication gear, and vehicles were stored in perfect condition. Pete had been a farmer for 3 years, but before that, he had been Colonel Pete Anderson of the Earth Special Forces. Similar scenes were happening on dozens of human colonies. The schoolteacher on New Berlin revealed a hidden arsenal under her classroom. The mechanic on Haven Station activated weapon systems that had been disguised as mining equipment. The merchant on Kepler Station began powering up sensors that had been tracking alien ship movements for years. Captain Danny Clark was supposedly running a peaceful research station near the edge of human space. The station studied asteroids and sent boring reports about mineral content to anyone who asked. What the aliens did not know was that the research station was actually a military outpost with enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. Danny received his activation signal while he was eating lunch in the station's cafeteria. He put down his sandwich and walked to his office. The walls looked normal, but when Danny entered his access code, they slid away to reveal a military command center. "Computer, begin combat readiness procedures," Danny said. The entire station began to change. Solar panels that looked like scientific instruments rotated to reveal weapon barrels. Communication dishes that seemed to be for research started scanning for alien military signals. The asteroid mining equipment outside the station showed its true purpose as planetary defense cannons. Back on Earth, Katie watched as reports came in from across human space. Her hidden fleet was powering up their engines. Her secret agents were revealing their true identities. Her advanced weapons were coming online after years of being disguised as harmless tools. "The aliens think we're children," Katie said to Ben and Patricia. "They think we need their protection and guidance. They have no idea that we've been studying them since the day we met them." Ben laughed. "They've been so busy looking down on us that they never noticed what we were really doing. Every treaty they made us sign, every restriction they placed on us, every insult they gave us, we used all of it to learn about them." Patricia pulled up intelligence files on the major alien species. "We know their military capabilities, their political structures, their economic weaknesses, and their social problems. We've been gathering information while they've been ignoring us." Katie stood up and walked to the main display. It showed the real scope of human military power. ships hidden in empty star systems, bases built inside asteroids and moons, weapons, platforms disguised as space junk, agents placed in every major alien government and military organization. They wanted to treat us like pets, Katie said. They wanted to put us in a cage and decide what we were allowed to do. They thought we would just accept it because we're the newcomers. She turned to face Ben and Patricia. It's time to show them what happens when you underestimate humans. Send the activation signal to all units. Ben's fingers moved across his controls. Across the galaxy, hidden human operatives received a simple message. The game is over. Show them who you really are. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had pushed humanity too far, and now they were about to learn what human patience had been holding back. For 3 years, humans had smiled and nodded while being treated like children. For 3 years, they had accepted insults and restrictions, while building a military force that could reshape the galaxy. The sleeping giant was awake and it was not happy. Katie looked at the tactical display one more time. Red dots showed alien military positions. Blue dots showed where they thought human forces were located. Green dots showed where human forces actually were. The aliens were outnumbered, outgunned, and completely unprepared for what was coming. Begin. Operation Reminder, Katie ordered. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were very good at being patient, but they were even better at being angry. The first sign that something was wrong came when the cargo ships stopped arriving. The Zephyrians on their homeworld of Zephyr Prime were expecting a delivery of human coffee and chocolate. These items had become very popular among the blue-skinned aliens over the past 3 years. But the ships that should have arrived on Tuesday simply never showed up. At first, the Zephyrian port authorities thought it was just a delay. Space travel could be unpredictable, and human ships were known to have mechanical problems. But when Wednesday came and went with no word from the missing vessels, they began to worry. The Kalari were having similar problems. Their tentacled species had grown fond of human music and entertainment. Several cargo ships carrying the latest human movies and songs were now 3 days overdue. The Kalari Communications Center tried to contact the ships but received no response. On the industrial world of Arcturus 7, the insect-like hive mind noticed that their supply of human-made tools had stopped. The humans sold excellent mining, equipment, and construction materials. The hive mind had placed a large order 2 weeks ago, but the delivery ships had vanished somewhere between Earth and Arcturus space. Commander Rick Santos sat in his captain's chair and watched the chaos unfold on his screens. His ship looked like an ordinary human cargo vessel from the outside. It was painted dull gray and had fake rust stains to make it look old and poorly maintained. The aliens who saw it thought it was just another primitive human ship struggling to keep up with galactic technology. They were wrong. Rick's ship was actually one of the most advanced vessels in the human fleet. It had weapons that could punch through alien shields like they were made of paper. It had stealth systems that made it invisible to most sensors. It had engines that could outrun anything the aliens had ever built. Captain, we're in position, above the Zephyrian Military Academy, his tactical officer reported. Lieutenant Amy Foster was a young woman with blonde hair and sharp eyes. She had been trained to use human weapons that the aliens could not even imagine. Rick nodded. Are the Academy's shields up? Yes, sir. They're using their standard planetary defense system. It's rated to stop attacks from orbit. Show them what human weapons can do, Rick ordered. The cargo ship's outer hull plate slid away to reveal arrays of weapons that glowed with blue energy. The beams that shot down toward the planet were not like anything in the alien military manuals. They passed through the Academy's shields without slowing down and struck the buildings below. But the buildings were not destroyed. Instead, the weapons carefully disabled every electronic system in the Academy without hurting a single person. The shields went down, the lights went out, and the communication systems stopped working. The Zephyrian cadets inside the buildings were completely unharmed, but their supposedly impenetrable fortress had been neutralized in 17 seconds. Rick activated his ship's communication system and sent a message to the Academy. This was a demonstration. Your students are safe. Next time we will not be so gentle. Before the Zephyrians could respond, Rick's ship vanished. The stealth systems engaged and the vessel disappeared from all sensors. The aliens on the planet below could only stare at their darkened academy and wonder what had just happened. Similar attacks were happening throughout the galaxy. On the Kalari homeworld, their orbital defense platforms suddenly went offline. The platforms were not destroyed, but every system on them stopped working at exactly the same time. The Kalari military tried to figure out what had gone wrong, but their engineers could find no explanation. On Arcturus 7, the hive minds, industrial complexes experienced mysterious equipment failures. Machines that had been working perfectly for years suddenly refused to start. Communication networks that connected different parts of the hive mind began experiencing strange delays. The collective consciousness of the insect species found itself unable to coordinate properly. General Amy Foster watched the reports come in from her command ship, hidden in the asteroid belt around Earth's sun. The ship looked like a large piece of space rock, but it was actually a mobile command center with enough computing power to coordinate attacks across the entire galaxy. All strikes completed successfully, her communications officer reported. No casualties on any target, all objectives achieved. Amy smiled. The humans had spent 3 years learning exactly how alien technology worked. They had studied every ship, every weapon, every defense system that the aliens possessed. When the time came to act, they knew exactly where to hit and how to disable their targets without killing anyone. What about the special delivery? Amy asked. Her aide, Colonel Steve Murphy, grinned. Steve was a man who looked like he should be working in an office somewhere, but he was actually one of the best special forces soldiers humanity had ever produced. The packages were delivered successfully. The Galactic Council delegates should be finding them right about now. On the neutral world of Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was holding an emergency session. The alien delegates were panicking as reports of the strange attacks came in from across their territories. They had gathered in their most secure chamber, protected by force fields and guarded by elite troops from a dozen different species. The Zephyrian delegate was in the middle of demanding immediate military action against humanity when he noticed something on his desk. A small wooden box sat next to his water glass. He was certain it had not been there a moment before. Other delegates began noticing similar boxes on their own desks. The Kalari representatives' tentacles turned pale with fear. The Arcturus hive mind's insect delegates clicked their mandibles, nervously. Security guards rushed into the chamber, but they could find no explanation for how the boxes had appeared. The Zephyrian delegate opened his box with shaking hands. Inside was a small mechanical device that began playing a soft, beautiful melody. The music was a human song called Amazing Grace, and it filled the chamber with its peaceful sound. But the aliens were not comforted by the music. They understood the message perfectly. If humans could place music boxes on their desks in the most secure room in the galaxy, they could have placed bombs just as easily. The attacks continued for several more hours. Human agents who had been pretending to be ordinary colonists and traders revealed their true identities. Dr. Helen Price, who had been studying alien biology on the Arcturus homeworld for 3 years, walked into the hive mind's central command center and calmly announced that she was actually a military intelligence officer. "I've been mapping your neural networks and communication systems," she told the shocked insect leaders. "I know how your collective consciousness works, and I know how to disrupt it if necessary." On the Kalari homeworld, a man named Bill Jackson, who had been selling human food to the aliens for years, revealed that he was actually a spy. "Every delivery I made included monitoring devices," he explained to the Kalari authorities. "We've been watching your military movements for 3 years." The most shocking revelation came on Zephyr Prime, where a human woman named Linda Carter had been working as a maintenance technician in the planetary government building. She had seemed like a quiet, harmless person who just wanted to do her job and go home. "I've been copying your classified documents," she told the Zephyrian leaders. "Military plans, diplomatic secrets, research projects. We know everything about your government and your military." The aliens began to understand the true scope of what had happened. The humans had not just been building a secret military force. They had been infiltrating alien society at every level. Human spies were everywhere, gathering information and preparing for this moment. On the factory world of Kepler 442b, factory supervisor Nancy Williams activated hidden programs in the machinery that humans had been selling to the aliens. Every piece of human-made equipment across 1,000 worlds suddenly stopped working. The galactic economy, which had become dependent on human technology, ground to a halt. The aliens realized they had made a terrible mistake. They had thought humans were primitive and harmless. They had treated them like children who needed guidance and protection. But the humans had been studying them, learning their weaknesses and preparing for war. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans finally lost their patience, the results were swift, precise, and absolutely devastating. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Security Committee was supposed to be the most secure gathering in the galaxy. The committee met in a special building that was protected by energy shields, force fields, and the best military forces from 12 different species. No one could enter without proper identification and security clearance. That was why the alien leaders were so shocked when Captain Roy Henderson walked through the front door. Roy was a tall man with gray hair and calm, blue eyes. He wore a simple black uniform with no weapons visible. He nodded politely to the security guards as he passed them, as if he had been invited to the meeting. The guards stared at him in confusion, but did not try to stop him. "Good afternoon," Roy said as he entered the committee chamber. The alien delegates turned to stare at him with expressions of fear and disbelief. "I hope you don't mind if I join your discussion about humanity." The Zephyrian security chief jumped to his feet. "How did you get in here? This facility is impossible to penetrate." Roy smiled and took a seat at the empty chair that had somehow appeared at the committee table. "You invited us to join your little club 3 years ago, but you never bothered to learn who you were inviting." The Kalari representative's tentacles were shaking with fear. "What do you want? Why are you attacking us?" "We're not attacking you," Roy replied calmly. "We're educating you. There's a difference." He pressed a button on a small device he carried. The walls of the chamber lit up with holographic displays showing star maps and military positions. The aliens could see their own fleets and bases, marked in red. Human forces were marked in blue, and there were far more blue dots than red ones. "For 3 years you've been making plans about what to do with humanity," Roy continued. "You've talked about limiting our expansion, controlling our military, and treating us like children who need supervision. But you never asked yourselves an important question." The Arcturus hive mind delegate clicked its mandibles nervously. "What question?" "What if we don't want your supervision?" Roy answered. "What if we're not the primitive species you think we are?" The holographic display changed to show detailed information about alien military capabilities. Ship designs, weapon specifications, tactical doctrines, and classified research projects were all displayed for everyone to see. "This is impossible," the Vortaxi delegate said. Its crystalline body was glowing bright red with anger. "This information is classified at the highest levels. No outsider could have access to it." Roy laughed. "That's where you're wrong. We've had access to all of this for years. Dr. Helen Price has been studying your biology and technology on Arcturus 7. Agent Bill Jackson has been monitoring your trade routes and military movements. Linda Carter has been copying your classified documents from government archives." The aliens looked at each other with growing panic. They were beginning to understand how completely they had been outmaneuvered. "But the most important thing you should know," Roy continued, "is that we could have done this at any time. We could have disabled your defenses, crippled your economies, and taken control of your governments 3 years ago. Do you know why we didn't?" The chamber was silent. The alien delegates were too frightened to speak. "Because we didn't want to," Roy said simply. "We came to your council hoping to make friends. We wanted to learn from you and work with you. We thought we could build something better together." He stood up and walked to the main display. With a gesture, he brought up images of human colonies and ships. But these were not the primitive settlements and vessels that the aliens had seen before. These were advanced cities with gleaming towers and massive ships that dwarfed anything in the alien fleets. "This is what we really look like," Roy said. "These are our actual colonies. These are our real ships." This is the technology we've developed while you were busy looking down on us. The Zephyrian delegate's blue skin had turned almost white with shock. Why did you hide this from us? Because you never asked, Roy replied. You were so sure that you were superior to us that you never bothered to find out what we were really capable of. You saw what you expected to see. The display changed again to show human manufacturing facilities and research centers. The aliens could see factories that produced advanced weapons and armor. They saw laboratories where human scientists worked on technologies that made alien science look primitive. We've been studying your species for 3 years, Roy explained. We know your strengths and your weaknesses. We know your military capabilities and your political structures. We know exactly how to defeat you if we choose to do so. The Kalari representative found her voice. What do you want from us? Roy turned to face the committee. We want you to stop treating us like children. We want you to recognize that humanity deserves the same respect you give to other species. And we want you to understand that your little plan to put us under supervision is not going to happen. He pressed another button on his device. The screens around the chamber showed live images from across the galaxy. Human ships were emerging from hiding places in asteroid fields and nebulae. Space stations that had been disguised as mining platforms were revealing their true nature as military bases. Human agents on alien worlds were showing their real identities to shocked local authorities. This is just a small demonstration, Roy said. We're showing you perhaps 10% of our actual capabilities. The rest will remain hidden unless you force us to reveal more. The Arcturus hive mind delegate spoke in a voice that buzzed with electronic interference. You're threatening us. No, Roy corrected. We're explaining the situation to you. Threats are what you do to people who are weaker than you. We're simply making it clear that humanity is not weak, and we will not accept being treated as if we are. The Vortaxi delegate's crystal body was now pulsing with confused colors. But your technology, your ships, everything we've seen suggests that you're centuries behind us in development. Roy smiled. That's because we wanted you to think that. We've been very careful to show you only what we wanted you to see. Our real technology is quite advanced. In some areas, we're ahead of anything you've developed. To demonstrate his point, Roy activated a personal shield generator that made his body glow with blue energy. The shield technology was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Then he pulled out a small weapon that projected a beam of light. The beam cut through the committee table like it was made of soft butter. Our weapons can penetrate your shields, Roy said calmly. Our ships can outrun and outfight yours. Our soldiers are better trained and better equipped than your military forces. And most importantly, we've been preparing for this moment for 3 years while you've been busy underestimating us. The alien delegates sat in stunned silence. Everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. The species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers was actually more advanced than their own civilizations. What happens now? The Zephyrian delegate asked quietly. Roy put away his weapon and deactivated his shield. That depends on you. You can continue with your plan to put humanity under supervision, and we'll show you why that's a bad idea. Or, you can recognize that we're equals who deserve to be treated with respect. He walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back to face the committee. You have 24 hours to decide. After that, we'll assume you've chosen the hard way. Roy left the chamber as easily as he had entered it. The alien delegates sat in their chairs, staring at the displays that showed the true scope of human military power. They were beginning to understand that they had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had pushed humanity too far, and now they were going to learn what happened when humans finally lost their patience. 24 hours later, Ambassador Jake Morrison walked back into the Galactic Council chamber. This time, he was not alone. Admiral Katie Sullivan walked on his right side, her uniform showing the stars and ribbons of someone who commanded vast military forces. General Amy Foster walked on his left, her presence making it clear that humanity's patience had finally run out. The alien delegates sat in their seats like frightened children. Their earlier confidence was completely gone. The chamber that had been filled with arrogant voices just 1 day before was now silent, except for the sound of nervous breathing and clicking mandibles. Jake took his place at the human delegation table and looked around the room. Every alien species that had voted to put humanity under supervision was now staring at him with fear and respect. The blue-skinned Zephyrians who had called humans primitive were pale and quiet. The crystalline Vortaxi who had mocked human emotions were dim and colorless. The tentacled Kalari who had dismissed human technology were trembling. "You wish to discuss humanity's place in galactic civilization," Jake said. His voice was calm, but carried the weight of authority that had not been there 3 days ago. "We are here to clarify a few things." He stood up and activated a holographic projector. The display showed the official proposal that the Council had voted on the previous week. The proposal to limit human expansion and place human colonies under alien supervision. "This proposal is withdrawn," Jake announced. "It will not be implemented. It will not be discussed again. Any attempt to restrict human expansion or control human activities will be considered an act of war." The Zephyrian delegate tried to speak, but the Council voted based on incomplete information, Admiral Katie interrupted. She stepped forward and activated her own display. It showed the real scope of human military power. Thousands of ships appeared on the star map, along with hidden bases, advanced weapons platforms, and defensive systems that the aliens had never suspected. "This is what humanity actually looks like," Katie said. "We have been operating under false pretenses for 3 years, allowing you to believe we were weak and primitive. That deception ends now." General Amy took over the presentation. Her display showed detailed intelligence files on every alien species in the Council. Military capabilities, political structures, economic vulnerabilities, and social weaknesses were all laid out for everyone to see. "We know everything about your civilizations," Amy explained. "Your military strength, your technological capabilities, your trade routes, your political leaders. We have agents in your governments, your military forces, and your research facilities. We have been studying you while you were busy underestimating us." The alien delegates exchanged frightened glances. They were beginning to understand how completely they had been outmaneuvered. Jake returned to the center of the chamber. "The terms of our new relationship are simple. First, all restrictions on human expansion are removed immediately. Human ships will travel where they choose, and human colonies will be established where we decide." He paused to let this sink in before continuing. "Second, all tariffs and trade restrictions on human goods are eliminated. Our products will be sold at fair market prices without artificial barriers." The Kalari representative raised a tentacle. "What about the equipment failures? Our economies have been severely damaged." "Your equipment will begin working again as soon as this meeting concludes," Jake replied. "Consider the temporary shutdown a demonstration of how dependent you have become on human technology." The Arcturus hive mind delegate buzzed nervously. "What assurance do we have that you will not use these capabilities against us in the future?" Admiral Katie stepped forward to answer. "Humanity prefers cooperation to conflict. We would rather be your partners than your conquerors. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves if threatened, and we have the capability to do so effectively." To demonstrate this point, the chamber's windows lit up with the sight of human ships materializing in orbit around the neutral world. Massive vessels that dwarfed anything in the alien fleets appeared from nowhere, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor and unknown weapons. "These ships have been watching this world for 3 years, General Amy explained. "Our stealth technology is far ahead of your detection systems. We could have taken control of this planet at any time." The Vortaxi delegate's crystal body was flashing with rapid color changes that indicated extreme distress. "Why reveal yourselves now? Why not continue the deception?" Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "Because you pushed us too far. We came to you hoping to build peaceful relationships. We offered trade, friendship, and cooperation. Instead, you treated us like children who needed to be controlled." He walked to the Zephyrian delegate section. "You called us primitive and emotional. You suggested that we were too dangerous to be trusted with freedom. You voted to put us in a cage." Jake's voice became harder. "We tolerated your insults and your arrogance for 3 years. We smiled and nodded while you planned to treat us like pets. But when you actually tried to implement your supervision plan, you crossed a line. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the background hum of the life support system seemed muted. "The galaxy will operate under new rules," Jake announced. "Humanity will be treated as an equal partner in all matters. Our representatives will have full voting rights in the council. Our colonies will govern themselves without outside interference." Admiral Cady activated another display. "We are also establishing a Galactic Peace Enforcement Division. Human. Ships will patrol trade routes and protect smaller species from aggression. Our advanced technology will be used to maintain stability and prevent conflicts." The alien delegates looked confused. The Kalari representative spoke up. "You are offering to protect us? After what we did to you?" General Amy nodded. "Humans believe in justice, not revenge. We do not want to rule the galaxy through fear. We want to build a civilization where all species can prosper." She paused and looked around the chamber. "But we will not tolerate being treated as inferiors again. Any species that threatens humanity or our allies will learn why it is a very bad idea to make humans angry." The presentation concluded with images of human colonies as they really existed. Instead of the small farming settlements that the aliens had seen before, the displays showed massive cities with gleaming towers, advanced manufacturing centers, and research facilities that rivaled anything in the galaxy. "This is who we really are," Jake said. "We are not the primitive newcomers you thought you were dealing with. We are an advanced civilization that chose to appear weak while we learned about you." The Zephyrian delegate finally found his voice. "What happens to the Council's authority? What happens to our leadership of galactic civilization?" Jake looked at him with amusement. "Your authority was always an illusion based on the belief that you were more advanced than everyone else. Now that the truth is known, your leadership will have to be earned through competence and wisdom, not through bullying weaker species." Admiral Cady stepped forward for the final announcement. "The new galactic order begins immediately. Human fleets are taking positions throughout the galaxy. Our agents are revealing themselves to local authorities. Our real technology is being deployed to maintain peace and security." She looked directly at each alien delegate. "You wanted to decide what humanity's place would be in galactic civilization. Instead, humanity has decided what the galaxy's place will be in our civilization." The meeting ended with the aliens sitting in stunned silence as the three humans walked out of the chamber. Through the windows, they could see more human ships arriving in orbit. The vessels were beautiful and powerful, representing a level of technology that made alien achievements look primitive. On his farm on New Montana, Pete Anderson was hosting a barbecue for his alien neighbors. The same aliens who now knew that the friendly farmer could destroy their settlement with weapons hidden beneath his crops. But Pete served them beer and told jokes because humans understood that true strength lay not in inspiring fear, but in choosing when not to use the power they possessed. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson about humanity. They were not cruel conquerors or mindless destroyers. They were patient teachers who preferred cooperation to conflict. But when pushed too far, when their patience finally ended, they possessed the capability to reshape galactic civilization according to their own vision. No species would ever forget the day humans lost their patience, because it was the day they learned what human patience had been restraining.